I work at a large crafting store in California and have been there for a year and 8 months now. A little background before I explain what's been going on is needed. So last year we hired a guy, named Hayden. Hayden was a little quiet on the first day, but quickly became more talkative and over the next couple weeks started to never stop talking. He would constantly say weird shit. For instance, one day he was put in charge of building furniture. Our store carries stuff like furniture and home decor as well. He was apparently having difficulty assembling the table he was working on, and he said something about cutting his wrist if he can't figure out how to put it together. Another time, we were both working in the stock room, and he kept talking about how much he looked like the Parkland shooter, Nicholas Cruz. I'll admit, he did in fact look like that kid, which was creepy. I remember one day, I had gotten off work and was waiting for my ride to pick me up, when out of nowhere, Hayden walked up behind me. He just stood there, with an awkward smile on his face, and I politely asked him,
"What's up?"
He said something to the effect of,
"Oh, nothing much. Just enjoying my lunch break. I'm thinking about going inside Taco Bell."
Right across the parking lot from our work.
"And shanking someone."
He pretty much laughed and said he was joking around after saying that. When my wife picked me up, we saw him walking toward the Taco Bell. He just flashed us this creepy-ass ear-to-ear smile. So the last straw for me was when he and I were assigned to work our spring freight and get it loaded up onto the large U-boat. Our shift started at 7 a.m. and was over at noon. It was 11, and we still hadn't finished our task because Hayden just wouldn't stop goofing around. He would also work very slowly on purpose and would only take one item to the U-boat at once. Our boss came to where we were working and was upset that we weren't done yet. He told us we would both get written up if the job wasn't finished before we were off. I was pissed off at this point, and Hayden knew it. He seemed to feel bad for pretty much getting me in trouble and apologized. He then said something that really concerned me. He said in the most serious tone I've ever heard him speak and since meeting him,
"If I get fired, I'll shoot this place up."
He then said he knew where all the emergency exits were, and he would first shoot all the cashiers and then move to the other employees in the store. I mean, I'll admit that I didn't immediately report what he said, but it did have me on edge, and I kept thinking about what if. So after some convincing from my wife, I finally did the right thing and informed my manager. They took a written report from me and contacted the police. After 2 more days working with Hayden, he was fired and arrested for his threats. The week after he got arrested, my boss held a meeting with the entire staff and told everyone what happened. After everybody left the meeting, he pulled me aside and revealed to me what the police and Hayden had talked about during the interrogation. I don't completely remember what was said, but Hayden apparently admitted that he said what he said and kept asking if I had been the one who reported him. Anyway, fast forward to a few weeks ago. I was working at the same store, still am, and I was heading to the break room for my final break when I heard a voice from one of the aisles to the left. A man was standing next to the paint case and asked if I could help him with some paint. While I was opening the case, he addressed me by my name, which I immediately thought was weird because I wasn't wearing my name tag on this particular day. Out of curiosity, I asked him how he knew my name, and he said it was just a lucky guess, to which I thought was BS, mainly because his tone of voice seemed sarcastic. The entire time I was getting his paint, he was staring at me with a smirk on his face. He then began to ask me questions about my name, which is the same name of a popular TV show character. He asked me what year I was born in, why my parents decided to give me that name, etc. At this point, I started to walk away, and as I had other things to do, and the whole time I was walking away, he was still trying to talk to me. I heard him yelling my name from 3 aisles down. I went and I stood at the warehouse until I thought he was gone. Later that same day, one of my coworkers asked me if I knew the guy who was buying the paint, and I told her I didn't. She told me that he had approached her and asked her all kinds of questions about me, like if I'm a good worker and if she likes me as a coworker. This is an ongoing issue too, as he comes into the store 2 other times, one being yesterday during my day off, and apparently asked where I was. I don't know for sure, but I suspect that this guy might be cousins with Hayden, as they sort of look alike and have similar mannerisms. Both look similar to the Parkland shooter and have that same creepy vibe. This might not be the scariest thing on here, but it's still very freaky. The whole thing unfolded today. Cops were involved. I almost had a panic attack. It was a whole mess. So, I'm on a trip backpacking around Europe with my brother, currently in Paris. We're staying at this hostel, and we're in a 10-bunk bedroom. There was this one guy in the room who was immediately super weird. Almost right away, like as soon as we got settled, he starts talking to us about flying to Libya. He's all,
Us. Libya, fly tomorrow.
and me and my brother are just like, nah dude. He keeps saying it. We keep saying no, and he's getting progressively more assertive about it. As me and my brother are going around doing sightseeing and stuff, I keep seeing this dude around. When we're at the hostel, he kept following us to the dining hall, out onto the terrace, and I'm getting more creeped out. My brother, ever the non-assertive soul he is, just laughs it off like the dude is joking. This goes on for 2 days. Well, this morning, we were going out to breakfast and I forgot my phone back in the room. So I told my brother to just go ahead and I ran back to get it. I go in the room and the dude is sitting there. There's no one else in the room and I honestly contemplated just leaving it. But I didn't trust it alone in the room. So I planned to just grab it quickly. That morning, he was still on about Libya, and was essentially bending over our beds going on about it, despite me repeatedly telling him to stop talking to us. I go in and grab my phone when he suddenly just yells,
Libya, now, we go now.
I'm very scared, since at this point we're the only ones in the room, and I just say, fuck off, dude. And I go to leave when he blocks the door and grabs my shoulder, still going on about going to the airport and flying to Libya. I shove past him and run away to where my brother and I were going to breakfast. I decided that we were going to switch rooms because this dude was officially creep level 100. We make it back to the hostel, and before we talk to the front desk, we went outside for a smoke, and he shows up. I almost yell at him to leave us alone, and he flat out says no. I go to the front desk and explain that this dude has been harassing us and we wanted to change rooms. I mentioned what went down in the room, and before I knew it, the cops were called and I was giving a statement. As they were sorting it out, there were a couple of things that jumped out at me. 1. This guy didn't pay in advance. Normally, when you're staying in a hostel, you pay the full amount up front, or if you're staying for a while, you pay weekly. He was paying by the day. 2. He had several pieces of ID in his wallet, none of which matched his description. Apparently, Paris has been having a problem with human trafficking. This guy was escorted out of the hostel by police. He was banned from staying there again, ever. Me and my brother switched rooms and we were given vouchers for free dinners for the rest of our stay here. And now, I'm terrified to go out by myself. I swear, if me and that guy had been alone in a more secluded place that didn't have cameras everywhere, I could have been shipped off to Libya. So, creepy guy from the Paris hostel, let's not meet. When I was 15, my mother went out shopping and left me in charge of the house. It was starting to get dark, and I realized my little brother was nowhere to be found. I asked my sister if she knew where he was, and she said,
He had gone to the park, around the corner. The kid gets football around.
I told her to watch the house while I was gone. I ran off in the direction of the park. When I got there, I was surprised to find the park completely empty. I called out my brother's name, but there was no answer. I started to get worried. All of a sudden, I heard a faint, muffled noise coming from my left. I turned just in time to see a tall figure disappearing behind a large fence. I sprinted as fast as I could, and when I came around to the other side of the fence, I saw something that almost made me choke in horror. My little brother was being dragged down the alleyway by a tall man. I flew into a rage, and tears of anger streamed down my face. I ran at him, and he must have heard me coming, because he turned around to face me and dropped my younger brother. The tall man tried to grab me, but I was running at him so fast that when I slammed into him, I knocked him off his feet. The tall man tried to get back up, but I just started stomping on his face without stopping to ask any questions. I picked my brother up and I ran as fast as I could back to our house. By this time, it was pitch black outside and my mother was home. She was frantic with worry, and when she saw the look on both of our faces, she realized that something bad had happened. As I explained, my brother and I started crying, and my mom gave us the biggest hug ever to try to calm us down. It didn't work.